If you want an adventure, you could climb a mountain! Or ride dune buggies through the desert! Or you could just head to your neighborhood Zaxby's. Introducing the Smokehouse Cheddar Barbecue and Southwest Chipotle Filet Sandwich Meals. They're brand new and they'll take your taste buds to wild and exciting new places. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, and they're both available for a limited time. Only at your neighborhood Zaxby's. And don't miss Jumanji: The Next Level, only in theaters.
From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
What up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan Hajavandi. He is Corey S. Clark. We work for Warchant.com. We're coming to you from the Midtown offices, Tallahassee, Florida. Use the promo code FSU New Era. Gets you 50% off an annual membership to the ultimate Seminole sports source. Again, it's Warchant.com. Check it on out. We're both here, again, live in the flesh in the Midtown offices. Good to see your face, Corey.
Thanks, buddy. I'm not on the phone this time, so that should be a welcome respite for our listeners to get to hear me in person.
Some people just... why has everybody got to be so mean about some stuff? Big Torsk poster on Warchant was was like, what the hell are you guys even doing a podcast for if Corey's going to be on the phone? Like, sorry, man. But then, I realize it's because they're passionate about the pod.
Right.
They really want to hear it. They want to hear it to its best.
They want to hear it at full capacity. Yeah. I understand that.
So I understand. I'm like, all right, they're just passionate. Kind of like our buddy RJ from Vero Beach that we saw in the swamp.
Yeah, in the flesh.
Yeah.
Right.
Apparently loyal Wake Up Warchant listener. Was decked out in full FSU Seminole regalia. I mean, quite literally.
He could have been on the horse.
Yeah, he could have. He stopped us as we were making our way to the post-game press conference and told us he was a big fan of the show. So they're out there. All those folks are out there. As well as what's out there is, golly, man. What was it? 9. Look at that. I always thought it was 8. 9 great locations. Our Zaxby's friends can hook you up at all over Tennessee Street. I almost said Tennessee. We're not even in the state of Tennessee. Figure it out, Aslan. A little bit of sleep deprivation going on over here for your big guy, for your guy over here. But check them out. Zaxby's on Capitol Circle Southwest. They're on Monroe Street. They're on Tennessee Street, Appalachia Parkway, Thomasville Road, Mahan Drive, and then in Marianna off Lafayette Street, in Douglas, Georgia off Peterson Avenue, and in Thomasville, Georgia on U.S. Highway 19, which is the road I would take to get home. What I'm holding right now here, Corey, is a free Zalad voucher. We'll be giving these away to our over-under winners. We did post it last second. I haven't tabulated it as of the recording of the show, but by the time you folks are listening to this, you'll know who won the free Zalad, the free chicken fingers, and who gets the T-shirts. And we'll do another over-under for the bowl game when we do find out where Florida State goes. College football is going crazy. It's Black Sunday, I guess they're calling it now, Corey, as we record this show. But first, let's just talk about, I guess, Saturday. 40-17, Florida takes down Florida State. Second loss in a row. Sadly, it feels like probably will be maybe 4, right? It'll be tough to imagine they're going to beat Florida next year. People are like, oh, you're crazy. What are you talking about next year already? You were the same people who told me to not put in the loss column 9 months ago. Get off my back. And then, maybe by 2021, actually, 2020 you're going to be in the swamp. Maybe 2022 when it comes back around to Tallahassee.
You can beat them in the swamp. They're not unbeatable. You just won 4 straight games there with not great teams, all of them. You can beat Florida in the swamp. They're not unbeatable.
With that bum of a coach. Anyhow, what like a disheartening loss. I mean, we didn't give them much of a chance because we're pretty smart about things by and large. But to see it happen the way it did, I think you said it best in the post-game wrap-up you did with Ira, that basically that game, it looked just like another Willie Taggart loss. And he wasn't there.
Yeah, you had 13 penalties, 2 just crucial ones. You had a 4th down stop. Your defense finally made a play, and you were offsides by, I guess, a couple inches with Janaris' helmet jumping up a little bit. Couldn't hold his water, so to speak. And then you somehow don't have enough men on the line of scrimmage on a punt. Yeah. So a muff that gives you a chance, gives you a little spark when it's still sort of competitive. You were lined up incorrectly and got flagged for that. So, yeah, man, it was just the same old, it's just the same old deal with this team. To me, it wasn't as disheartening. It was probably the least disheartening loss of the season.
Really?
Maybe because It's just exactly what I expected. You had your best defensive lineman was that you just knew you can't get a pass rush. You just can't. And I don't think Kyle Trask is a Heisman winner, an All-American, or a great potential NFL prospect.
I mean, all ACC. He won't even be all SEC.
He's a decent quarterback. He's not terrible. But when you got no pass rush, it doesn't matter. Anybody that's a college quarterback can sit there, and you can't cover receivers long enough. You just can't. And they just do not get pass rushes. They just don't. And it's not just, okay, they're not great at defensive end. Marvin's out. And then Durden's been banged up, and then they just don't have a lot of great defensive linemen anyway. But anytime they blitz, it never matters, ever. You're just wasting a body, really, because you never get close to getting home. I think he might have been impacted by a Florida State defender. I think he throw close to 40 passes. I bet he was impacted by a Florida State defender once.
41. They threw 48 times overall with their trickery, as well as their backup quarterback getting some burn, Emory Jones.
So, that to me is like, okay, well, I knew that going in. So that kind of played out the way I thought it would play out. In the offense, really nice drive to start the game, did some different things. And, it's not a great matchup when you can't block. But if you're a couple yards short on a couple throws to Tamari and Terry, those are 2 touchdowns. And again, you're not going to win that game, but instead of 40-17, maybe it's 40-30, or they probably would have kept scoring points, so maybe it's 47-30. It just played out. I mean, the spread was 18 or so. They lost by 23. Inexplicably, in my opinion, he tried to kick a field goal down by 23 in the fourth quarter. Not that mattered one way or the other.
40-20 just would have sounded and looked a lot better. I was totally on board with it.
I just don't. I mean, I don't like. I would hope coaches don't think like that. Like, what blowout loss would look better? I mean, none of them look good, man. You're getting humiliated at Florida again, by Florida again. But anyway, it played out pretty much exactly how I thought it would. I thought it was cool that Tamarian had a nice day. It would have had a huge day if he was just a couple more yards, or a couple less yards on some of those throws. Akers got over 100 yards. Really bummed about Hamsa. Had been playing really well. Has been their best defensive player for at least a month. Really does kind of play his heart out, and goes and makes plays, and is just, he reminds me of a guy. There aren't many on that defense. He's a guy, in my opinion, that could have played on those 90s defenses and would have fit right in. Yeah. Could have been on the 2013 defense. Probably wouldn't have gotten a lot of run. That secondary was pretty loaded, but he fit right in with those guys. So that's a really bummer. We don't know the extent of that injury, but obviously it's not great. Can't expect him to play in the bowl. But otherwise, it was the same old, same old. It looked just like they always look against a rival, against any team that has a pulse. They just get humiliated early. They were out of it early. What was it against Clemson? Was it 28-0 at half or 30? What was the score? 38-0 at half,
I think. And
then at Florida, it's 30-7. Miami, you scored. I don't know that you had a touchdown in the first half. They get completely
28-0 at half against Clemson.
So, yeah, against Clemson and Florida, you were down a combined 58-7 at half. Those teams are good. They're both top 10 teams. The talent disparity isn't that big that you completely don't even compete in the first half.
Miami was 17-3.
Is that true?
Yeah.
So, I'm going to do some quick math here. I'm going to say that's 75-10. You were outscored in the first half by your 3 rivals. Come on, man. So you're getting outscored by 22 points in the first half of those games. That's some quick math for you. Anyway, it's almost like it did. What did it matter? Other than them winning, which they didn't, that game has really no impact on the FSU program at all, right? Like you weren't stunned by what you saw on Saturday.
No, but
it's depressing. I get it. It's discouraging.
And then it makes Florida feel so much better about themselves, and now they don't see any way they're ever going to lose grip on the rivalry, which happens in rivalries.
But Florida State felt like that 3 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago, even in that terrible season.
We've never. I was asking you at the game. I mean, other than maybe the 2013 game.
That was 30. That was 37-7.
I want to really see what the score was like at the halftime. Like we never blew the doors off Florida, and then here we are 2 years in a row now that Florida's blown them. I mean, it was 17-0 at halftime in 2013, the Florida State-Florida game.
Yeah, but you also have to remember. So
It was a hell of a bummer because I just thought that
you beat them 4 years in a row or 4 times in a row at their own place.
That's so. I mean, come on.
3 years in a row. 3 years in a row,
now?
they scored 3 times in a row. 11, 13, and 15. They scored a combined 1 touchdown. I think they scored 16 points total in those 3 home games to Florida State. My point is that I'm sure Florida's fans in 2016 or even 17 were like, this is never gonna. They just have our number. I mean, but it flipped. It can flip.
Oh, well.
That's my point.
At some point it will. Yeah, it's never – Florida's never going to just go on some – they're not going to dominate Florida State for the rest of the history.
But, I'm saying it can flip quickly, and we have no idea how even next year will play out. You just don't. There's no way you could have told me after the game in 17 the way Florida State – I know the game wasn't – I don't remember the score, but it wasn't a blowout, but it felt like a blowout. Mm-hmm. Florida State had some unlucky stuff happen. I think my man, didn't he intercept a pass and then go down at the 1 yard line? Matthew Thomas. Yeah. They might have still ended up scoring after that, but
38-22 is that game.
And it felt worse than that.
Yeah.
You couldn't have told me at the end of that game, even knowing that Jimbo was probably done, that, oh man, Florida State's going to get pummeled by Florida the next 2 years. Literally, what is it, 85 to I mean, they've scored 85 points the last 2 years against them. So, I mean, but you know what I mean? Like, it
if you show me the way they were practicing.
Right, well, but
probably not going to work out.
But whoever the new coach is, he can turn that stuff just like
the great
Willie.
Mike Norvell.
Could be Norvell. Hey, he might be going to Ole Miss. Who knows, man? In Memphis, close to Ole Miss, isn't that thing?
Oh, yeah. Like
and Ole Miss is open. Ole Miss is open. They might be open for a reason. Old Norvell told him yes.
Did he? I think he might have. He might have split with Ole Miss though. I mean, you can't be losing Ole Miss and then. He won 15-10.
When this year?
Yeah.
They beat Ole Miss 15-10.
15, yeah.
Come on, Mike. We got to score more than 15 points against Ole Miss.
My boy Matt Campbell didn't look all that hot either. That was kind of a bummer. But
Franklin got the big win, dub against Rutgers.
Yeah. So they did hire Schiano after all. Apparently.
Yeah. Yep.
Good for that.
Yep. They got Schiano.
Good for our friends in New Jersey. But I mean,
keep them away from here.
The fact that they looked so terrible tackling was just. And I asked Odell after the game, and people used to get on my case about the beginning of the Willie era, of just about, how much are you kidding me? Like, you have no patience. Give the man some time. You can coach some stuff out of these guys, I would have thought. Maybe at least tackle with passion, like tackle aggressively, physically.
Well, they catch them, almost all of them.
It's terrible. I mean, I'm looking here at Pro Football Focus. 1, 2, 3, 6 guys graded in the red in tackling, which is terrible, which I think it's like under 35.
That's failing.
I mean, one of the guys here, 9.7. That's the lowest I've seen anybody rank on anything. Even the offensive line.
I don't know, but I think
20s.
Bello might have had a few in single digits too last year.
I should probably look at that right now. But that's the thing. It's just, I knew they weren't going to win the game, but I was hopeful that at least would have been, go down 38-21. Make it look competitive. Make it look like you're continuing to grow.
Well, that's only a 6-point difference from what it was.
Whatever.
Right. But don't you? I think I said it in the column. I said it on the wrap-up show. That's the end of the Barnett era. Not that we had much question anyway, but to give up 30.5. Florida could have named their score. It felt a lot like the Tebow Senior Day game, where they could have taken a knee at the half if they wanted, because it was just like they knew they could do anything. He could have sat back there for 9 seconds trying to find an open receiver. Your DBs have no idea how to play zone. They don't make plays on the ball except for 23, and he got hurt. It's done. It was an experiment. You tried it. I think he's obviously a good coach because of what he did in Michigan State, but it did not happen here at all. His philosophy, just didn't take.
Philosophy, just nothing.
It just didn't. And I don't mean philosophy like
what is it?
What did he say his philosophy was?
Fast, physical, and aggressive.
None of that. None of that. 0 for 3, man. Literally 0 for 3. I know you got fast guys on the defense. They don't play fast. They're certainly not physical. They're not aggressive except for 21 and 23, and they both were hurt in that game. You got nothing. You got nothing out of those guys that I could see. I didn't see anybody get appreciably better. And so he's gone, and it's again, it's too bad. He's been a very nice person to deal with, but we knew it anyway. Though, I couldn't imagine a scenario where whoever came in would keep him, but you can't. You just couldn't now after this. It's just they get humiliated every time they play an offense with a pulse. Every time. And it was almost like you graded so much on a curve. You'd be like the Virginia game. You were like, wow, that was really good. They came out and played hard. Well, they still gave up 31 points and not a great offense, and they gave up 21 in the fourth quarter when they had a game won because they couldn't play a zone and they just kept giving them 9-yard passes. And it was like that way the whole season. All it was head shaking mistakes over and over and over again. Look at Miami, man. Look, they put up 27, could have put up 34 on you. And they go and lose to FIU and Duke back-to-back weeks and don't score that many points. It's just, and again, the offense isn't off the hook either. Anytime the offense played a defense that was good, it very much struggled as well. But, man, I'm just so sick of watching Florida State defenses be bad. Not even average, bad. There's no reason that Florida's defense looks like that and Florida State's defense looks like it does. Aren't they recruiting from the same pool? Aren't they fishing from the same lake?
Yeah.
They're getting the same caliber of players. Why does one look like that and the other one look like that? Explain it to me. Doesn't make any sense. It's not all Barnett's fault. He was a coach down the whole year.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. They've been doing it since the beginning of time with 9 full-time coaches.
And he was asked to. I'm sure he was. I know it wasn't his idea to switch to a 3-4. He was told to switch to a 3-4. That obviously didn't take. That Boise State game just was an embarrassment to sports. But and he had some built-in excuses, but it doesn't excuse how bad the defense has been for 2 years. It's been 24 games of mediocrity to outright awfulness. Is that a word?
Has any hire really been good? I mean, has any hire worked? No hires worked out from the Willie Taggart era. Just, abject failure. It's where we're at right now. But it also lends to hope for the future.
Yeah.
If they get this thing right. I mean, you're seeing what Florida's doing, obviously, right now, this quickly.
So quickly.
Why can't it happen here? To a certain degree, what Scott Satterfield is doing in Louisville, although they got smoked by Kentucky, so probably not the best example at this point. But, yeah, it happens a lot of places.
I think Mullen's the best example. Florida was Florida in 2017.
And Florida was not recruiting at a high level at all.
No, that's what I'm saying. They were in a worse spot in 2007 after that game because they didn't go to a bowl that year either, right?
No.
After that game, getting beat by 2 touchdowns by James Blackman on their home field, after that game, they were in a worse spot, to me, by far, than Florida State is right now.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I mean,
no.
they didn't. They had Felipe Franks was their quarterback. Their offensive line wasn't great. They had some talent on defense, but just the state of the program. It was their second losing season in 4 years. It was their third coach in 5 years or fourth coach in 5 years. I know Jimbo had coached against, I think it was 4 different coaches, and since he had been at Florida State, it was Randy Shannon was the 4th Florida head coach he'd gone up against, maybe 5th. But they were in a bad spot, man. They hadn't done anything since Urban left, or since Tebow left. And then in 2 years, they've won 19 or 20 games. And it ain't like they haven't reinvented the wheel. They just, they're well coached. Their offense got better, but not great. And they don't beat themselves. How many pins do they have? 4? Florida State had 13.
Yeah, there's nobody really. I mean, that number one guy, Tony, is pretty explosive. Otherwise, their wide receivers are average.
Pedestrian,
their running back is average.
They've been pedestrian their whole lives, their whole careers.
And
the offensive line isn't incredible.
No, not all.
They have a couple. The one defensive end is great, and I think one of the other ones didn't even play, and it didn't matter. They still had 8 sacks.
Yeah, Grenard was a grad transfer, so hopefully if you can tap into that stuff.
Was he really? From where?
Louisville. We talked to him
that's
at
right.
Media Day 2 years ago.
Man, he's good.
Yeah.
Should have stayed at Louisville.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Thanks, jerk. But yeah, so that's that. We don't know where the bowl game is.
I remember him. He was a likable kid, wasn't he? Yeah, I liked him. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too upset over the game because we knew what was going to happen. But at the same time, I would like to see a little more fight. I'd like to see a team that would know how to tackle. Just some semblance of offensive. That offense has always just been such a live by the big play. I can't remember an offense that just lives and dies by the big play as much as Florida State has this year. There's no – I'm not trying to say go Jimbo and go 9 plays, 71 yards in 8 minutes. Well, they can't string together 3 first downs in a drive to score. Not
against a good defense.
No,
I think it's such a you're so hamstrung by what's up front.
But the things that they rolled the pocket out.
They did until 14. The end. Until the end, they all of a sudden.
Why are you waiting?
Yeah.
What are you waiting? Why was that? We watched them do numerous wrinkle plays that they ran at IMG that they never even lined up in this season. We didn't see one wild cam snap. Jordan Travis, I don't think Jordan Travis is the panacea, which a lot of people think. Just so many weird decisions made that at some point people are like, well, it's Willie tying up Kendall, and then, how much did it really look all that different after he left? I don't know. But here we are, looking ahead to the future. We hope to know a coach. So we're thinking this week.
Oh, I
with
can't
the amount of
imagine it
people
would
that
be
have been,
this week.
since we last talked now, Ole Miss has come open. Matt Luke has apparently been fired. Will Muschamp has cleaned house in South Carolina. Texas has cleaned house. Tom Herman's gotten rid of everybody. I mean, almost literally everybody.
Missouri's open.
A&M
still has a coach.
Yeah, they do. Arkansas is open. Southern Cal. I mean, that's a beautiful thing, right?
And Boston College.
Yeah, Adazio. Rest in peace.
Which was crazy, man. I mean, what do you want at Boston College? He's all right. He's not great, but he's all right. I guess you're wanting great, but it's going to be hard to find at Boston College, but maybe they'll find it.
And to a certain degree, USF's open now. Charlie Strong being fired, which I would think opens a door for Willie to go back there. Being sincere on that, which would be good for everybody. It gets him back on his feet, a place where he had success. And it would lessen the buyout for Florida State because whatever USF would pay him.
Do you think if the kid doesn't celebrate by dog peeing in the end zone and they go to overtime in that game, win or lose, do you think he keeps his job? Like that. Like coach. Imagine if like in the Louisville game when Tamarian Terry has the long touchdown, but then flashes the deuce sign, the peace sign, and he gets flagged for that, and then they end up settling for a field goal and missing. After Tamarian Terry had already put on a mask and he'd already been told some things by Willie not to do, that he still went and did that the very next week. And Florida State loses that game. Do you think that would have been like the nail in the coffin? Like, to me, that's just what does that say about how your players –
He still would have made it to Miami, I
probably,
think.
yeah, probably. But what does that say about your players and how they view you as a coach and your program, that they feel that they can do that, knowing that it's a 15-year-old? It's not like that's a surprise. Wait,
and they've done that before. They did it 2 years ago. DK Metcalf did the same thing.
And Antonio Brown did it in the NFL. I got it. But you also know it's a flag. So, and it's in that moment. It's not the first quarter. So what does that say about how the players view your program? There's zero chance, and everybody knows I'm not a enormous Jimbo Fisher fan like my partner. But there is zero chance that a player at Alabama or a player at A&M or a player at Clemson in a moment like that would even think about raising their hind leg and urinating in the end zone.
Yeah.
So what does it say? That to me, if I'm an administrator, says, okay, that I know you didn't tell him to do that, but somehow in your culture, he feels okay doing that. He feels that that's appropriate because it didn't even dawn on him, hey, that would be a selfish thing to do, and it might cost my team the game. He wanted to do a look at me, I'm going to pee in the end zone. What does that say about the culture you have? So
fear's a beautiful thing.
So I wonder if he, because it's only his second year, right? Or is his third?
Luke? No, it's his third year.
Oh, okay. Well, then he was probably gone anyway.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't help, though.
No, definitely didn't. I mean, if they win that game, they probably – that's how important that game is in that state. You're not getting fired after you win that game. And the converse applies, too. If Ole Miss would have won, they probably would have fired Joe Moorhead at Mississippi State, which he was in his he's in his second season, too, because, he replaced Dan Mullen. Matt Luke, 15 and 21 overall at Ole Miss. 6
All right,
and 18
well, yeah.
in the conference. I mean, Steve Adazio was like 15 games below – he's 12 games below 500 in the ACC. 500 overall.
Gauntlet, baby. It's a gauntlet. He beat Notre Dame. He beat USC that one year, remember?
Do they? I mean, I imagine these schools, I don't know, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I mean, you can do better than 6-6, 7-5 at Boston College. You should be able to win 9 games there like every third, fourth year.
Yeah,
he's never won more than 7 games.
With a place like Boston College, I mean, I think, you could win 8 or 9 every third year probably. I just think, I remember because they had Skinner as the basketball coach. And they're like, you know what? We're tired of, I know he got us to the tournament 8 years and out of 12, but this year was awful, and we want to start fresh and have a new chapter, and we're gonna fire him. And they haven't sniffed the NCAA tournament. They've been awful. They've been the worst program in the conference for a half a decade now. So be careful what you do because you could make an awful hire. And Boston College has made plenty of those, and it's just not an easy place to win. But I mean, I guess that doesn't mean you should settle for mediocrity either. So I get it, I guess.
That's the thing. It's a lot of people were kind of coming to the defense of Steve Addazio and wondering what Boston College is thinking. But it's easy to say that when it's not your team. When
Absolutely right. You're right.
You're not watching those losses kind of accumulate. Yeah. That said, let's talk a little bit more about what Florida State could be looking forward to as a coaching search. Hopefully it wraps up. We'll talk about that next year on Wake Up Warchant. Presented by Zaxby's.
At Birch Orthodontics, they know what a difference a beautiful and healthy smile can make in your life.
They take the time to get to know you and perform a thorough exam so that they can make an individualized treatment plan just for you or your child.
They use the latest technology in a warm and comfortable environment. So whether you are interested in traditional metal or clear braces or clear aligners, they can give you the smile you deserve. They know investing in your smile means investing in your future. And at Birch Orthodontics, they are honored to be a part of your smile journey.
Serving Tallahassee for 16 years and supporting the Noles since forever. Check them out at birchorthodontics.com. BURCH orthodontics.com. Welcome back. It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan. He is Corey. Use promo code FSU New Era. Get you 50% off an annual membership for our new subscribers on warchant.com. All right. So, Corey, no head coach still. This is our last Monday, though, I'm saying, right? This is our last Monday show without a new head football coach.
It has to be, right? Yeah. It has to be.
Because, again, all these jobs that have come open now puts even that much more pressure to get something done. I saw a couple people kind of lament the fact that part of the reason why Florida State got rid of Willie when they did was to get a head start on things. And if they don't have somebody in place by Tuesday, then what was it all for? And that's pretty short-sighted, right? Because Florida State has had this head start for 2 weeks. They've been able to vet people. They've been flying around meeting candidates.
I just think there's two competing thoughts. I don't think they fired Willie Taggart saying, okay, we got to have somebody in place. We know who our head coach is going to be. Let's go ahead and fire someone and then let this play out. We'll announce it right after the season's over. Or necessarily, like, the benefit is, yeah, it gets you a head start. But it didn't give you a head start in naming a coach because, as we've talked about, nobody was going to be named until these next few days anyway because they all had seasons to coach. But again, the reason Willie Taggart was fired after the Miami game wasn't because, hey, we know who our head coach is going to be already in 2020, or because we want we got to get on the road to replacing him. The reason he was fired is because they didn't want him in 2020. And if you know you don't want him as your head coach in 2020, axe him then, right now, because you don't want to have to watch him answer questions for the next 3 or 4 weeks. It just delays the inevitable for no reason. And after the Miami game, they knew without a shadow of a doubt they were done with him. So if you're done with it, doesn't have to be this. I don't know necessarily that they're playing chess and like, okay, we're firing him, but we're only firing him because we know exactly who's going to fill the position. No. More important to them than who fills the position in 2020 is who didn't fill the position in 2020. And that's Willie Taggart. So they got that done. And now we'll see who his replacement is. But I do think the biggest decision was who wasn't going to be the head coach. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
And so I think that's what the timing was. He's not going to be our head coach. We know that now without a shadow of a doubt. There's nothing that's going to save him. We've talked to our boosters. We'll come up with the money if we have to, apparently. So let's go ahead and do it now. And so that's what happened. I don't think if it goes on for another 4 or 5 days that Florida State – I mean, I guess the counter to that, and I know you weren't making this argument, but I've seen it on the boards and on Twitter, is why fire Taggart if you don't know who the replacement is going to be? Why keep Taggart?
Right. When you know he's not going to be
If you know he's not the guy, don't keep him. You didn't – and what did it cost you? It's not like firing Taggart cost you anything at all. In fact, it might have probably gotten you a win at Boston College, but it's not like Florida State did something that hindered them in their search by firing Willie Taggart. That makes no sense.
People. It's like my mom would tell me when I would think about leaving my TV job. She's like, "Make sure you have another job before you leave this job." And I think that's what people are thinking. Like,
sure. Make
sure you have another coach before you get rid of this coach. But that's not. It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way at all.
But also, I guess the counter to something like that, and everybody gets that advice. But if you know you're leaving that job, no matter what, at the end of the year, I'm gone. I'm leaving Bozeman.
Mm-hmm. Oh, look at you! You remember.
You go. Why even stay here? Why not just get the ball rolling and find another job? Why even stay here? Yeah. And that to me is what Florida State did. It's like, why even keep him around at all? We don't want him around our program anymore. We're done with this. We don't want this Willie Taggart culture around our program anymore. So we're going to stop it now and try to have an interim, and then we'll be ready to go once December starts. And we'll see. But I'm not worried that there hasn't been a head coach named already.
No,
because,
I'm not either.
Rutgers, I guess, is the only one and they've had it open longer than anyone, and that was craziness with Schiano back and forth.
Though, again, I think some of the benefit of getting rid of Willie then when you did as well is to lessen maybe his impact on the program. And that was stuff that, again, I was hoping Odell was going to begin to slowly start turning around. If you haven't listened to Tamori Terry's interview, I think that's the best player interview after the Florida game, just to talk about kind of what the mindset of that locker room is. And the sooner they get somebody here, obviously, is the better, because they have to change everything about the way they do everything. You talk about Florida being in the position that they were in 17 compared to this team now. I think this team is in a much deeper hole than they were after Jimbo left. Much deeper hole.
I don't know. I'm not sure I disagree. I think the right hire in 18, I guess 17.
Yeah.
If you make the right hire, then
you're the bowl streak is still alive.
You're closer to being back to Florida State. I still think the hole was pretty significant, but I equated it to. This is good for a podcast. In my opinion, Jimbo left a big heaping pile of mess on the floor, just a steaming pile of poo. Willie came in and slipped on it, and it spread all over the kitchen floor. So it's a bigger mess to clean up. It's not necessary. It's probably not a great
tentacles
analogy.
Have reached out further.
Yes, there's more places to slip on the kitchen floor, because you know what happens when you spread poo around.
When there's big mess.
Big mess. Yeah, like your cat's going to be making soon enough.
Yeah, mess everywhere.
They don't. I guess they go in the litter box. But I mean, I don't know necessarily that it's bigger, but it seems to cover more areas.
Maybe a worse adjective. I just think it's going to make everybody upset that was so pro Taggart. Like whoever. I'm going to have to exercise much more patience with whoever gets hired than Willie Taggart was ever afforded. Not by me, but even the most ardent Willie Taggart fan.
I don't know.
But if it looks that bad, if things look that bad, I'm always going to be upset.
Absolutely.
There's certain things that you can control that he controlled that he just did. He took the wrong turn.
Of course, and
anything that didn't relate to football, though, he was great. Bringing back Bobby, bringing in Mickey, the way he talked, the spring game turnout, all the things that he did. Great, but then when it came to actually doing
the job,
being actual head football coach,
and that's why he recruited better in 17 in a short window than he did the last 2 years on a big window, is because the recruits didn't have anything to watch. They just went by how he talked and his word and his vision. But once they saw it played out on the field, well, that's the worst. That's the most negative recruitment that Florida State had. It wasn't other coaches. It was what they were putting on the field Saturday. I just think he's a. The roster isn't as talented as it was. The roster that whoever will be taking over for Willie isn't as talented as the one that Taggart took over. It's not going to have Marvin Wilson, not going to have Terry, not going to have Akers.
Brian Burns.
Yeah, I mean, there were some real players on that roster. But my biggest concern is do these players care about winning? Like, how much does it matter to them? You hear about culture, and I guess culture is such a all-encompassing word that it's hard to even describe what exactly it means. And I think it can mean different things in different avenues. Like, yeah, they're better about going to class. And I'm not saying that dismissively. That's a big deal. They were really, really low in the APR. And were close to a bowl ban is how bad they were. Jimbo had let that completely go off the rails. But, man, I think Jimbo's players seem to care more about winning, at least the 16 and 17 teams, I think. Although they had to sign promise notes to play hard. So I don't know what the heck is going on with Florida State football when it comes to that, but it surely doesn't seem like they I'm not saying they don't try hard, and they do play hard, but I think they're used to losing. And when you lose a lot, it doesn't affect you that much. They're 18 and 19 in their last 37 games.
Well, I don't want to gas you up too much, and I'm getting us off topic here. The only people that ever bring up the promise notes are people that listen to Seminole headlines. I just want you to know that.
Oh.
Like my friends who don't listen to Seminole headlines, who aren't diehard on Warchant 24/7, like no one ever talks about the promise notes. Doesn't bother anybody. But you guys and Jeff did such a good job of just absolutely hammering everybody over the head with that no one will ever let it go.
I wouldn't say, number one, it was Showtime that showed them doing it. That great show, you remember that? Behind the Lines, or whatever it was called, Season With. But that was embarrassing too. Like, why?
He's trying to. He rallied them. I mean, they ended up winning 10 games. They almost beat the national champions that year. They almost won the ACC.
But what can't you were coaching a program that had been What were they at that point when they signed those notes? 50-5 in their last 55 games. Why are they having to sign something to try hard?
A lot of those guys weren't on that 2013 team.
Well, yeah, they didn't do anything on that 2013 team. But it's like what was lost from the 13 team to the 15 team? Were they just more entitled? Was it worse coaching?
Yeah, coaches was not focused, and the assistants.
No, I don't even know if it's Jimbo. I'm just saying,
I'll say it, man.
You went from Pruitt to Kelly. Yeah. Your defense wasn't great, but I don't understand why. And Derwin's saying whatever he's saying. Like, I wish you need to put your heart in all their players, or whatever he told Jimbo as he was injured. That will always be. And look, I think Florida State will turn back around. I think it's like Kentucky basketball. I just think you get the right coach in here, it's an automatic. You're going to be good. You're going to be relevant. You're going to win a lot of games. You just got to get you can't have the Billy Gillispie.
Yeah.
You got to get maybe not Calipari, but somebody of that ilk. Right. Even Tubby won a lot of games, but you got to. And I say even Tubby because I was a Georgia fan, and I'm pretty upset with some of the stuff he did there. But he got He got him to a Sweet 16. Anyway, you can get a coach in here and turn this thing around. But man, something's got to flip, man. Something's got to flip with the players on the Florida State roster, in my opinion, because you look at them after a game. James Blackman is crushed. Tamari Terry, I think, gets crushed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think that's the case for all those guys.
No,
I don't think it's. I think a lot of them went in there expecting to lose, and they weren't upset that they lost. It was just okay. That's what we do. Which you can't blame them. I guess they're 18 and 19. Yeah. But it sure would be nice if one time they rallied up and beat a team they weren't supposed to beat, and that never happens.
And
ever.
The coaches they're going after have done that a few. Let's get back on focus on that. Again, on the timing on this. With everything else coming open, people might think that Florida State lost their ace in the hole with having the time advantage on people. But again, these have not been wasted weeks. These have been weeks reaching out to other agents, representatives, the search firm. It does sound like the one thing, if you would have gotten Bob Stoops, that was just the absolute perfect thing, right? Like if you would have been able to hire Bob Stoops within 1 week, Bob Stoops has already been on campus right now. It had already been moved into the Moore Center, would have been recruiting for you and all that kind of stuff, right? Didn't come to fruition. So you're now going through other, guys on the list. And, man, it doesn't sound like James Franklin's probably not an option any longer. So now you're talking about guys like Mike Norvell, who keeps coming up in every flipping update. And I probably shouldn't use strong language because he could be the head coach. And then I got to awkwardly introduce myself as a guy that goes on the podcast and was like, yeah, I think you're not going to do anything well here. But I can't imagine, unless the Southern Cal job. Does the Southern Cal job affect anything? If that does come open, does that become more enticing? Do they become the bigger? You've always talked about Florida State think is the better job than Southern Cal.
It's certainly better than all the ones that are currently open. And again, that's to me is the bigger. I don't know. Florida State and Southern Cal, I personally think, and maybe I'm biased because I'm a Southern guy, but I think it's a better job. I think it's easier to win in the ACC. Just look at recent history. Yeah. It's easier to win championships in the ACC. There have been 3 in the last 6 years than it is in the Pac-12. It just is, and you get to recruit from a better pool. I know it's the California school, but, man, USC hadn't been good since Pete Carroll left. And even then, that was just like a perfect mix of everything. But, Florida State eats first. All these jobs that are coming open, there's one big dog right now, and it's Florida State. They're not going to, I just saw a message board post about with Ole Miss's job being open. Like, now they're going to sneak in and get Norvell. Not that I think many Florida State fans are worried about losing Mike Norvell to Ole Miss. But, man, Mike Norvell, unless he's just an idiot, which he might be, why in the world would you go to Ole Miss instead of Florida State? I know Memphis is close. There would be zero chance. What has Ole Miss ever won?
Well, you're in the SEC West. It's just absolute suicide.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Plus, you're at a place that never wins. They had a couple of Mannings. That's their claim to fame. I guess they had 3 Mannings.
No,
just not the good one.
Well, Cooper didn't.
They had
play.
Cooper. He counted, right? He was a receiver.
Yeah.
So he counted. The only thing their football program has ever been known for is the Grove, a few Mannings, and a gas mask on the night of the draft. Yeah. That's it. That's it in Ole Miss history. Yeah. You're going to choose that school instead of Florida State. Not if you're really serious about winning things. So Florida State still gets the first choice of available candidates that want to move. Maybe USC, in some people's eyes, is more appealing. I think most people, especially the people in your pool, they still know what Florida State can do. Look what the last guy got. Heck, look what Willie Taggart got. He was terrible here, and he got paid $30 million. Even just from a pragmatic sense, you're like, man, I'm set for life if I go to Florida State. And the guy before him is making $7.5 million a year at A&M.
Yeah,
7 points.
This show isn't of the belief that getting rid of Willie Taggart the way they did is going to scare anybody away, right? I'm not.
Not scare them away. That's too hard a word. I think if I'm a coach, if I'm one of the Mats, I would be very interested in I would have questions about what did you see from him that made it so certain that you were getting rid of him after 21 games. Because I don't want to go to a place where my job is in jeopardy after 21 games. I think that is legitimate concern. I just think they'll have answers for it. And once you have answers for it, and if you're told some stuff behind the scenes wasn't going well, and this and that and this, and you're given, I think it's something that you would bring up. But as long as the reasons that Coburn and Thrasher give, they'll be good enough that I think the coaches will understand. I think, in my opinion, I don't think it would scare anybody away. But wouldn't you question it at least? If you're going to leave a good job where you think maybe next year you have a chance at a huge job, to go to a place that might get rid of you after a year and a half, you'd at least want to know the backstory. What happened that made it inevitable that you had to fire a guy for 21 games?
See, I'm biased because I think Jimbo's pretty well regarded in the coaching fraternity. Like, people don't like him, but I think people respect what he does. So I think when people know what he was doing here and how it was rolling along, and they look at Willie Taggart, they probably and remember they had that CBS anonymous coaches poll thing that we made fun of last season, but before it even began, ranking the most, it was an anonymous poll by CBS Sports asking college coaches to rank who they thought was the most overrated coach. And this is before one game he even coached at Florida State, but Willie Taggart was voted the number one most overrated coach by his peers, by a certain group of his peers. So I do think that most of those coaches look and they're like, yeah, when you have a guy here that it's a really good, strong coach, good sort of culture, which people are, what are you talking about? I don't know. Listen, whatever. You guys hate Jimbo Fisher, whatever. Okay, he sucks. He was good for 3 years. So when they see that there's a coach here that's good and dialed in for 3 years, they know what this program can be, and they kind of have an idea of what Willie created, and they know that they're so far from what he does that they'll be all right. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a problem. The only thing, the craziest thing that could happen, and again, Missouri coming open, Ole Miss coming open,
Arkansas being open, the big dogs.
Doesn't affect Florida. The only thing that could affect Florida State, and it would be the people that are still hung up on Bob Stoops, and I almost feel stupid even saying this, would be if the Cowboys do indeed get rid of Jason Garrett, which sounds like it's probably going to happen at the end of the season. And if they go after Lincoln Riley.
Oh, yeah.
And if they get Lincoln Riley, if Bob Stoops does want to get back in college coaching, I would surmise going home, staying home, whatever Norman is to him, is the most appealing job of any college job at that point.
Well, or somebody like a Matt Campbell. You might be seeing if the Oklahoma job is going to come open. Because that you can't understand, right?
Yeah.
Of course you would, at this point, if you're a 38-year-old college coach, Oklahoma is more of a sure thing than Florida State. So if that's actually out there on the table, yeah, man, you might take your chances. Even if you don't have a for sure Lincoln Riley's going to Dallas, then we're going to come after you. You don't have that for sure. You don't have that guarantee. That's something you might stay on board for and not take the leap to Florida State. Other than that, there's no job in my opinion that would come open that would be more alluring than Florida State.
I think the timing on that. This is week 11 or this is week 12 right now of the NFL season. They still got 5 more weeks. I mean, there's a whole month and change.
And he said he's not going to fire him, and they're probably going to go to the playoffs.
Yeah,
they're still leading the division.
Yeah, NFC East is horrible. So that's the only sort of domino I think that could really affect whoever Florida State's going after. Although I don't know. I mean, I think Southern Cal. I think you kind of you undersell Southern Cal to a certain degree. I think Southern Cal is really appealing. I think living in Los Angeles is probably really cool, especially when you're making millions of dollars.
Really expensive though. Coming to Tallahassee, that $1 million goes a longer way.
No
you live in Golden Eagle.
Yeah.
You live in Golden Eagle. You could have a membership at Killarn.
Who wants to live in Manhattan Beach? Right?
Nobody. I've been to where is it? Santa Monica or Newport Beach?
Yeah.
Hole. Sorry, I guess you have to blur the absolute hell on earth.
All right, so what is going to happen over the next 72 hours then? I mean, because this has to be coming close to an end.
Odell gets the job, obviously. makes Levitt. No, I wrote again. The only way Odell we thought had a chance was what was going to happen for Saturday, and that did not happen. I think that's probably best for everyone that happened the way it did. I guess if that was actually a real possibility, but I think in the next 72 hours we will know who the next head coach is going to be at Florida State.
Is it going to be Mike Norvell? It can't be.
It can be.
It can't. You can't do the whole Renaissance thing. I mean, people say that was setting up for like stoop smoke screen. There's no way you're going to ask folks to help out with the Renaissance. You're not going to send overnight FedEx letters to your top level boosters asking them to increase their donations by 20% to bring in a coach, from a Power 5 program. Group of 5 program. I mean, you can't. You cannot bring Mike Norvell.
Admittedly, tough sell.
Yeah.
Admittedly. Hey, man, he's 11-1. 11-1. Mike Norvell, that's all he does is win games at Memphis. No, that's not. I don't think it'll be him.
Do you start looking at Tom Herman a little bit too, maybe, and think if he's not working out, keep going to this group of 5 maybe not the best sort of plan of action. Didn't work out.
You know who I think Florida State should go after. I've said it for months. And he ain't a head coach.
Brent Venables.
Because he does know what a Power 5 job looks like and what it entails and what a head coach has to do. He's never been one, but he knows what a great Power 5 head coach looks like. He's been around them for the last 2 decades. That, to me, is more of a sure thing. But again, man, I mean, I'm sure we could look. There are plenty of examples of guys that were Group of 5 coaches that went on to be good Power 5 coaches, right?
Well, Rule was at Temple, so, I mean, he's one.
Okay. Anybody else? I mean, I guess Jimbo wasn't. He was an assistant.
Dazio was at Temple and then went to Boston College.
Well,
Al Golden was at Temple and then he went to Boston College.
Temple, just the coaching cradle.
Yeah.
Manny Diaz was at Temple for a couple of weeks.
Gus was a OC at Tulsa.
Yeah.
And then he went to Auburn, won national title.
Fuente? Does Fuente count? He's okay, right? Not great, okay. It's a tough sell, man. It's a tough sell. I think this fan base will be much more on board with Brent Venables than Mike Norvell. 100 to 1.
Absolutely.
100 to 1.
Absolutely.
And he has no head coaching experience at all.
Absolutely.
So yeah, man. I
would think the Florida game also had to illustrate it if there was any doubt just about what kind of coach they need. They need a drill sergeant coach. They need someone I should say drill sergeant, but someone that has an absolute laser focus sort of detailed plan. I mean, we make fun of Ogeron for having that binder. I want to see a freaking binder, man. I don't want to do
we
something.
We don't know what was in that binder.
I don't want no excuses. You can make excuses. Excuses are fine and they're part of life.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to have excuses for why things go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Blame no one. No, that's not going to work this time around. So
you want them to blame people.
Yeah, point fingers at people.
Blame everyone. They should change that on the practice field.
Have a mutiny, revolt. How about this? I just want to keep asking questions that you don't have the answers to. Makes it really comfortable. Is it going to be somebody that we have not talked about? And we talked about a lot of people.
I can't imagine. The only way that I think that would be even a possibility is if it's some NFL OC that it never even occurred to you. But then why would you do that?
Because Pete Carroll.
Well, he was the head coach, though. You're not going to get an NFL head coach. So who are you going to get? Dan Quinn? He'll be available soon. So
you guys blowed out the Saints in New Orleans.
Yeah, and then beat the Panthers the next week in Carolina. Didn't give up a touchdown either game.
But then at home against the Saints on Thanksgiving night, just
awful. Yeah, well, the week before they got blown out by Jameis. Yeah. So he's done. But no, that would be the only way I think that it would be somebody we hadn't it hadn't dawned on anyone is if it's a NFL assistant, and I don't see how you go that route, because theoretically, if you're hiring an NFL assistant, you're hiring one from a good team. And good teams are going to keep playing well into January. So would you do that to yourself? I don't know.
I need to pull this up. When is the early signing period? Is it the first? I know it's the first Sunday and the first Wednesday in February is National Signing Day, the traditional one.
Yep.
Is it the first Wednesday in December? No.
December
18th. December 18th.
Oh, plenty of time. What is that? So what day of the week is that?
It's a Wednesday.
It is a Wednesday. Okay.
2.5 weeks.
All right. So you got 2.5 weeks. That's plenty of time.
It really is. I know you're being a little bit sarcastic, but it really is.
It's fine, yeah.
If you're a new coach at Florida State, 2 weeks is enough to get the guys that you need to get in.
And what you need to do, it's hard to convince someone to just sign by December 18th with you if they've only had a couple conversations with you. But you can convince them not to sign other places. You know what I mean?
Right.
Give us till February. Let us recruit you for the next 6 weeks, and we'll show you. You know what I mean? Yeah. That you can do. So, yeah, man, and you can't – not that you would want to wait till December 20th to hire a coach or name a coach, but you can't let this recruiting class dictate a quick
Absolutely not.
hire. You just can't. It's not loaded with 5 stars. You're not trying to keep a great class together. It's a pedestrian class by Florida State standards at best. So go and make sure you get the right coach. So then next year's class can be one of these 5-star loaded super-duper classes that you're used to.
It's crazy how few decommitments they've had. It really is. I think they've only maybe had 3 or 4 decommitments. I know that the class only maybe like 16 or so. But
can I be and I'm going to take Aslan's role on this show because I'm not Mr. Negative. I'm not Debbie Downer like Aslan is all the time. But could that maybe tell you about the type of prospect they're recruiting? That even now Florida State is their best option without a coach.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that. Look at you. That's another level of cynicism. I love it.
But I mean, it's loaded with 3-star talent, and trust me, I get that there's wide variances in stars, and some of them 3 stars play like 5 stars. I get all that, but by and large, if you're loaded with 3-star talent, you're loaded with 3-star guys, their offers aren't from Florida, Alabama, and Clemson. They're from USF, UMass, Georgia Tech, people like that, Miami, just the also-rans of the sport, the dregs of college football, people that haven't won anything in decades. That's who you're recruiting with. So I still think that a lot of the kids that have signed with Florida State are committed to Florida State. No matter who the coach is, that's their best offer. And whoever the new coach comes in, he might have to make some really, unpopular decisions as far as, man, you're not, I'm sorry, man. I know you've been committed for 9 months. I know you're a Seminole, but we don't think you're good enough. I'm sorry. That's going to have to happen. You can't just take everybody that's in the boat because the guy that comes in, you hope, will think he can fill the boat up with better players.
God, I want you to be like a travel ball coach and cut guys. I want you to be my Turk.
Just cut people?
Yeah.
Like, hey, man, bring your –
It's not good enough, man. It's not good enough.
Can you bring your bag?
Bring your binder.
Can you bring your Mill Creek sweatshirt?
Coach,
you're going to need that back.
Mill Creek. Coach wants to see you. Will Willie Taggart be the next head football coach at USF?
Man, because Strong's out, right, which we all saw coming. Man, if you're USF, do you do it?
Absolutely.
You shouldn't have to pay him a ton.
No.
He's set.
Yeah.
This is just supplemental income if he's the head coach of South Florida. Yeah, Rutgers hired Shiano back. Why wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you? I'm sure he'd want to do it.
Over, under.
But that said, I'd say I don't. My first instinct is no, probably not.
Really, my first instinct is absolutely. They loved him, and then for good reason. He did good there.
They did, but
bring him back home.
Man, it was ugly the last 2 years. But at South Florida, what do you care?
Over, under. Man, this is going to be kind of maybe too easy. 1.5. Current coaches that are on staff at Florida State will be on the 2020 coaching staff.
Over.
2.5. What about 2.5?
That's the right number. Okay. I would say under 2.5.
Okay.
But yeah.
That's crazy. People talking about like Levitt. Man, like, is he going to stay around? Like, maybe he should be the head coach and keep him, keep Kendall. I don't want to keep anything. I really don't at this point. So if has this search firm, can they really truly have kept everybody out in the cold on this?
Because apparently, it can't be just a complete unknown. Like, we all have guesses who they're probably going after. And, in fact, we all know we know, the people at Warchant anyway, know a couple people that they've interviewed. But still, it's nothing. It's dead silence. It's been really remarkable. Other than the Stoop stuff, which there was complete validity in not even smoke. There was a little smoke. There were embers. There was smoldering fire
tinders
there. Other than that, there's been no peep out of about any coach being like gaining real momentum, and this could happen really soon with this coach. It's been really remarkable how quiet it's been. Like, I wonder if Coburn's even – so they weren't there, for the people that don't know, because you didn't watch our wrap-up on YouTube or on Warchant, me and Ira's wrap-up. Coburn and Thrasher are always at football games, road or on the – usually, especially Coburn would be on a road game. Well, and they would definitely be at the Florida game. Well, neither one of them were there Saturday night, which, it's the end of the year. Odell's final game as a head coach. Normally, you'd think your president and your AD would be there for that game, but, they were off doing other stuff. Which, but I wonder, like, if they even told their wives where they were going. You know what I mean? Or who they were talking to. It's just been crazy how quiet it is.
Well, I think it's been crazy quiet in terms of what it was like when they went after Willie. Because it was like,
well, that was so quick, though. That was lightning
that's
quick.
What I'm saying. It's like Gene put out the hot board. Here's the top candidates. Willie Taggart's at the top of the list. And then it was they interviewed yesterday, or like they flew out to Phoenix and met him there. And then within 2 days, like he's going to be the guy.
Right.
This, we were hearing names. We just haven't heard like the concrete rendezvous point. I mean, the names that we've talked about on the show are names that Gene's reported. Or these are and the things, the people that are involved in the process. Coburn, it's got to be people involved with boosters. And I mean, I'm not giving away sources, but I mean, there's the people that are involved at the highest levels of power at Florida State making decisions. Gene knows these people,
right?
So, and they're not going to be like, Gene, we can't tell you. And if they did, Gene would be like, guys, like, listen, I kind of have an idea, but I can't really tell you because I'm going to lose my source if I tell you guys any of this sort of stuff.
Right. Well, I mean, I think we probably know who they're going after. We know who they've interviewed. But as far as somebody being like, yep, we offered, they accepted, we're working out the details, man, that hasn't happened. And it usually it feels
like with Stoops there was that sort of.
Yeah, that was the closest. But since then, there's been a lot of.
Mark Stoops as well. We've heard that there was an interview.
Sure.
Brent Venables apparently was supposed to get interviewed, but that never happened. But maybe it did happen.
That's right. Let's hope. Brent, I'm all aboard, buddy. I'm telling you, I'm all aboard.
I mean, Matt Rule's the only name that we've talked about on this that I don't think has ever been posted on the hot board.
Right. That's just us, you and me speculating. You and I speculating. Right. I think they've done a really nice job. I think they should be commended. I know Florida State fans would like more smoke and more, but it's almost like the national media even forgets there's a Florida State search. Like, it just hasn't been brought up much. It's been about Odell or Dion. That's been it. So they just done a really good job because, I mean, we'll see. I might be not. I need to knock on wood, or we'll see what I'm saying 3 days from now. But you're not getting turned down by everybody under the sun. As far as we know, Florida State hasn't offered the job to anyone and been turned down by anyone, except we think Bob Stoops. Which, if you're going to get turned down by anyone, that's the guy. Any active coaches, we don't know for sure they've offered the job to anybody.
But we know that
at this point,
but we
that's
know that
remarkable.
They have interest in these coaches, though. So if it is one of these coaches, then, and I'm not trying to besmirch the good name of Glenn Sugiyama and DHR International, but the people that are talking, because people are now getting upset on the message boards that no one's been announced and Gene hasn't said anybody in particular. But the fact of the matter is, if one of these coaches that he's mentioned in his updates actually gets hired, then do people need to back off?
What do you mean?
Well, there's threads on the Warchant like nobody knows. Gene doesn't even know. Nobody knows anything. DHRs get this thing on lock, yo. Well, then what happens when they do hire Mike Norvell? What happens if they do hire Matt Campbell? What happens if they do hire James Franklin? These are names that were talked about.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they're names that have been bandied about by the people that matter. Some have been interviewed. But being interviewed and being offered, as you know, you've been in a TV business. You've interviewed for, and me too. We've interviewed for things we didn't get. Just because we're interviewed doesn't mean we get the job or we get offered the job. So
this is different, though. When you show, I mean, I think people want to know the interest in a coach. I don't even think people care so much about who's been offered the job. I think people want to know who has been interviewed. Like, who have they reached out to?
Oh, I think it's the other way. I think more people would be in. Like, well, you interviewing Mark Stoops isn't nearly as big a deal as you offering Mark Stoops.
Well, I'm saying I think the bar is so low for information for people right now.
Oh, yeah.
Of course they want to know who's been offered the job and how. They want to know how much Stoops was offered. How was it 7 years? 70, was it like a Jimbo contract? Was it more than a Jimbo contract?
$1 billion.
You know, people want to know that. But at the end of the day, I think they're fine knowing that, hey, listen, Florida State did actually communicate with Coach X's representative on Thursday.
Yeah, I have an idea. I think by February or March, we'll have a long, long story about this whole process. like an ins and outs, X's and O's of how everything went down, kind of a behind-the-scenes look at who their number one target was. And, of course, whoever they end up hiring will probably be their number one target. But we'll be able to get some stuff together, cobble some stuff together to figure out what the real plan of action was as soon as Willie got fired, and who they really were interested in. Maybe who just the dominoes. Who was the first domino that fell and the second domino that fell?
I think when they name that coach, we'll probably be able to put it together ourselves. Don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, you would think if it's somebody like Norvell, okay, well, you missed out on 3 or 4 of them.
And you have to wait for him to finish out. He has an extra week of playing games as he's in the AAC championship.
Like if Franklin had been offered, if they had offered Franklin, that's what I'm saying. Like if they're, why wouldn't you offer James Franklin? Yeah. I think you would, but nothing's come out about that. That to me is what's when I commend them, you offering someone and then him turning it down and making it known through back channels.
Yeah, Bruce Feldman hasn't tweeted out James Franklin offered, Florida State has declined their
right, because that's how you do it if you're a head coach, because that's how Jimbo did it. Yeah. You want your fan base to know, hey, all these big schools are after me, but I'm going to stay with you guys. Now pony up. Right. You know, that's what you want to do. That's how you play the game as an agent and as a head coach. That hasn't happened at all with this search, which is pretty remarkable. It happened with Florida with Chip Kelly. I think they had somebody else before, maybe Scott Frost too.
Yeah.
That that happens at these big schools, and so far now again, it really kind of officially, like the green flag was just waved, like everybody's off to the races officially, where they can actually, everybody just knows this is hiring season. But the fact that nothing's come out about somebody turning down the Florida State job, to me, is something to be commended for. They have done a really remarkable job, in my opinion, in that sense, of keeping that very quiet. Because I cannot imagine that as we sit here on, what is it? Is it Christmas Eve? What's today? Is it close?
Well, it's December 1st as we record this on Sunday.
They have not offered anyone but Bob Stoops. I can't imagine that's the case.
You know what would also be really
in the
cool?
Last 4 weeks.
You know what also be really cool if Bob took the job is the fact that Florida State could say that nobody's turned the job down in 50 years.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
Well, no, I think, man, I swear I think they wanted to interview somebody, because I wrote a retrospective on Bowden my last year at the Democrat. Maybe it was the 40th anniversary of him getting hired, so 76, and I wrote a whole story about it because I went and read all the Democrat back issues. And they wanted to hire, I think it was the coach at South Carolina. They wanted to hire him, but the AD wouldn't let him interview. So he stayed at, I think it was South Carolina. It might have been Virginia Tech, somewhere on the Eastern Seaboard. But what was funny, and it just God loved Bobby Bowden in the way things were back in 1976, he was coaching at some all-star game in Florida, and he was asked about his interest in Florida State. And he goes, I'll be honest with you. If they offer me the job, I probably would accept it. I really like Florida. Whatever he said, it was really he's like, I'm definitely going to interview, because why wouldn't I? And if they offered me the job, I might accept it. It'd be a nice challenge. But this was before he'd even interviewed. He was just asked about his name being bandied about. And I thought, well, that's pretty refreshing. That just people answered questions back then. Like, yeah, if they offer me, I'll probably take the job.
Jim Carlin?
Is that right?
I don't know. That's a coach from South Carolina from 75 to 81. Paul Dietzel before him?
No, I maybe. I'd have to go back and find my old Bowden story. Can you find that? Go look that up. My old Bowden story from 4 years ago.
Oh, my God.
I'm just kidding. I'll do it. You talk.
He actually talked about it at his birthday. When he was at Samford, they did the Atlanta Quarterback Club, or like the Atlanta Touchdown Club, had a big annual thing where they brought all the head coaches from all the major schools in the Southeast came there. And apparently the Samford AD was on the chair of that Atlanta Touchdown Club or whatever it was. So he kind of elbowed in and been like, hey, I want to bring my head coach out too to rub elbows with everybody else. And sure enough, when they sat everybody down at their tables for dinner that night, he was seated next to Bill Peterson, who's the Florida State head coach. And that's how the entire sort of bond of Bobby and Florida State begun.
I found it, by the way. It was Maryland's Jerry Claiborne.
Ah, damn. Yep. I love Jerry. He was great.
Because because McGrath, after Mudra was fired, made a list of possible candidates.
Really? They had a hot board even back in the 70s?
Around town, there is considerable support for Gene Cox of Leon High.
Okay.
Around town and state, there's also considerable support for Bill Peterson, who last coached Florida State in 1970. Such coaches as Maryland's Jerry Claiborne, West Virginia's Bobby Bowden and NC State's Lou Holtz are prominent in speculation.
We always shot for the moon. God bless
exactly
Florida
right.
State.
But the athletic director for Maryland, Jim Kehoe, denied permission for them to talk to him, and moreover threatened to report Florida State to the NCAA if it contacted Claiborne.
Huh. Joke's on you, Ricky boy. Not Rick Kehoe. Rick Kehoe was like a hockey player. Jimmy.
Here it is. I found it. Man, I was way off. But he was asked about he was at the All-Star game, Bowden was, and was asked about potentially being a candidate. And he goes, I'm happy where I'm at, but I do plan to talk to Florida State people when and if they desire. It's like, that's my dog. That's how you answer it. That's exactly how you answer it.
I love it hearing names. If Florida State's going to reach out, I'll talk to them.
Yeah. Isn't that the way to do it? Yeah. So
But then the internet goes ablaze. All right, last one because we're like over an hour now. So you would be more surprised. I not put words in your mouth here, but it feels like this next 72 hours we're kind of bracing for it to kind of be like a roller coaster. At least in terms of speed, like it's going to happen fast.
yes.
If they've kept the information flow this choked up, it's going to be one of those things where Gene's going to be like, man, just really heard, made one of our sources really said that this name has really picked up steam in the last 24 hours. And then it's going to be like another update probably within 5 hours of that. And then it's going to be probably like an announcement within like 48 hours of that. You'd be more surprised if the counter to that were to happen, if this were to actually drag out into Friday or next week. We're sitting here recording Thursday, and we still don't know who the coach is. That would catch you more by surprise.
Thursday If by the Friday show we're not talking about Florida State's new head coach, that would surprise me more. I do think it's going to be a flurry within the next 24 or 48. I do, and
I don't want to put words in your mouth either, because then people are going to be like, well, if you guys said that they were going to probably have
I'm not. Obviously, I don't know for sure.
Yeah,
You asked me if I'd be more surprised. I would be. Stunned? No, not really, because, again, it's still another week of college football. And maybe Venables said, hey, I'm not even thinking about your job until after we somehow slow down this Virginia attack. If we can beat Virginia, then maybe I'll think. You know what I mean? So I do think that there's a chance that it might be Sunday or Monday of next week, but I think that's much slimmer than the chances that it's this week.
Imagine if Mike Norvell winning on Thursday cost them this job, or Friday.
What do you mean?
Because he's got to coach another game, so maybe he's.
Oh,
although
right.
it didn't affect Tom Herman. I'll tell you this. Last thing I'll say, then we go. If you go back and listen to the interviews that Willie Taggart did at Oregon, they are some of the most uncomfortable interviews I've ever listened to. Like when he was flirting with the Florida State job, and he was getting a question about it and the way he would answer it. And Mike Norvell's going to start getting asked those questions about this job and probably also the Ole Miss job.
one for sure, yeah.
So why didn't Bob just say yes? Everything's so much cleaner and easier.
Yeah.
But anyhow, guys like Matt Campbell, I think, James Franklin, PJ Fleck, if he's still on the board, they don't have any games to worry about this week. So these are the guys you can really go after full.
Yeah, man, this is coach hunting season. This is where you get it. This week in particular is where you go where it should be. There obviously coaches are going to be fired, but then there are going to be some big hires, and I think Florida State will be one of them. Let's hope, man. I'm tired of this. I'm ready to start talking about a new coach.
Also,
start criticizing him.
Shout out to the men's basketball team, Emerald Coast Classic champs, taking down Purdue. I couldn't find the game online to rewatch, but I looked at the box score. They beat Purdue, who's a pretty good team, probably a bubble NCAA team or maybe an NCAA tournament team. Number 17 Tennessee on Friday.
Yeah, but they beat Purdue on Saturday, and Florida State was 1 of 17 from 3. And they still beat a good basketball program. Man, they defend now. They've all, Leonard's always kind of preached that, but the last few years they've been more of an up and down. They haven't been junkyard dogs. It hasn't been 2009, 2010 Florida State on the defensive end. Well, man, it sure seems like that now because Tennessee and Purdue had trouble doing anything against them. Ever since the Western Carolina game, really, they've been defending their booties off. Western Carolina is the only game they've really struggled on defense all year. Maybe the Pitt game, but Florida they held down, and then Tennessee and Purdue, they already got – they play Tuesday at Indiana. No matter what happens in that game, they've already had a really good non-conference schedule. Or non-conference results. But, yeah, good for them. It's good. Not 2 good wins.
When they play in Indiana?
Tuesday night, I think.
Where?
Little ACC Big Ten in Bloomington.
All right. Cool. Actually, we're supposed to go talk to Leonard today.
That's right. And we're going to do it.
All right, we'll be back tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody.